Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to the English Globe, and today I am truly pleased to guide you into a topic that shapes almost every part of our modern life. Because even if we do not always notice it, global trade influences the food we eat, the phones we use, the clothes we wear, and the jobs that support families around the world, making it essential for every English learner to understand how countries move goods across oceans, how companies depend on supply chains, and how international cooperation helps billions of people gain access to products that improve their daily lives while connecting nations in ways that were never possible in earlier centuries.
Today our focus is on the future of global trade, China, the United States, Europe, and new trade routes. And this topic is important because the world is entering a new economic era where governments rethink their strategies, businesses search for more reliable partners, and technological progress creates faster, smarter ways to transport goods, all of which means that the traditional patterns of trade are slowly changing and opening opportunities for regions that were once less connected, while also raising important questions about competition, cooperation, transportation systems, and the long-term direction of the global economy that young learners and future professionals should understand clearly through simple and accessible English explanations.
One reason this topic matters so much is that China, the United States, and Europe are three of the most influential economic players in the world, and their decisions about manufacturing, investment, and logistics directly affect millions of workers, shipping companies, and consumers. So when we speak about the future of global trade, we are not only talking about numbers or statistics, but also about how the daily economic reality of people in Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and the Americas may change as new trade routes develop, shipping technologies improve, and countries compete to become central hubs in a rapidly evolving global marketplace that depends on cooperation, innovation, and efficient movement of goods.
Another important idea is that the world is becoming more connected through new transportation corridors, modern rail lines, digital trade systems, and energy routes that link regions in ways that were impossible only a few decades ago, which makes it essential for English learners to develop an understanding of key terms such as international markets, global supply chains, export strength, import dependence, and economic partnerships, because these words appear often in news articles, political speeches, business discussions, and university lectures. And knowing them allows learners to participate more confidently in conversations about global issues while improving their vocabulary and critical thinking skills at the same time.
Before we go deeper into this very meaningful subject, we kindly ask our dear listeners to support this educational content by liking the video, subscribing to the English Globe, and activating the notification bell, because your engagement helps our channel reach more learners, encourages us to continue creating long and detailed episodes on global topics, and allows us to invest time in producing clear explanations with simple vocabulary that benefits students, travelers, international workers, and anyone who wants to understand the modern world through English in a calm, structured, and helpful learning environment without unnecessary complexity.
We also warmly invite you to write in the comments section below and tell us where you are listening from, because our audience comes from many beautiful countries, and knowing your location not only helps us understand your background, but also inspires us to create content that reflects the global nature of our community, while giving other listeners a sense of connection and unity as they see people from different cultures learning English together, sharing opinions, and exploring important international subjects such as trade, economics, culture, transportation, and the future of global cooperation.
In addition to sharing your location, we encourage you to leave your opinions about today's topic, because each listener brings a unique perspective shaped by their country's economy, their experience with global products, and their understanding of how international trade affects everyday life, and your comments help us enrich the discussion, build a more interactive learning experience, and highlight the fact that global trade is not just a distant issue for governments and large companies, but a real and practical subject that influences the financial stability, job opportunities, and development strategies of nations across the world.
As we begin this educational journey together, remember that our goal is to make complex topics feel simple, understandable, and enjoyable. So even if you are a beginner in English or new to the world of economics, you will be able to follow the explanations clearly, learn important vocabulary naturally, and grow your confidence in listening to long-form English content, because the English Globe is designed to support learners who want to improve step by step, while exploring meaningful global subjects that inspire curiosity and help build a stronger understanding of how our world is connected through trade, cooperation, and shared economic challenges.
When we talk about China's growing economic influence, we begin with the fact that China has become the world's largest manufacturing center, because over the past 4 decades, the country developed huge industrial zones, modern ports, efficient highways, and skilled labor systems that allow companies to produce goods quickly, cheaply, and in very large quantities, which is why items such as electronics, clothing, machinery, and household products in many countries often carry labels showing that they were made in China, reflecting how deeply the nation is connected to global trade and how important it has become for businesses around the world.
China's rise did not happen suddenly, because it required years of long-term planning, investment in education, massive infrastructure spending, and the creation of special economic zones where foreign companies could build factories more easily, which helped attract global brands that wanted faster production at lower costs. And this combination of investment and cooperation gradually transformed China into a powerful exporter whose products travel to Asia, Africa, the Middle East, Europe, and the Americas through enormous shipping networks that reach nearly every major port on the planet.
One of the clearest reasons for China's strength in world exports is its ability to produce goods at scale, meaning that companies can manufacture a very large number of products in a short amount of time, and this scale lowers costs, increases efficiency, and makes Chinese factories extremely competitive in international markets, while also allowing China to support other countries by providing affordable products that help businesses operate, households save money, and governments access materials for construction, communication, and transportation projects that require reliable and low-cost equipment.
As China continued to grow economically, it began looking beyond its own borders for ways to strengthen global connections, and this led to one of the most influential economic initiatives of the modern era, known as the Belt and Road Initiative, which focuses on building new roads, railways, ports and communication networks across Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and parts of Europe, creating new corridors that make trade faster, safer, and more predictable for countries that need better transportation systems to support their development and connect their people to global markets.
The Belt and Road Initiative, often shortened to BRI, has played a significant role in shaping new trade pathways, because when countries build new highways, modern seaports, and efficient railway lines with China's support, they gain access to improved routes for shipping goods, attracting investors and encouraging tourism, which helps local economies grow while also giving China new partners for trade, political cooperation, and long-term economic relationships that make the global economy more interconnected than ever before, forming a network that stretches across continents and supports millions of jobs.
One important example of this transformation is the development of new rail routes connecting China to Europe, allowing goods to move across Central Asia and Eastern Europe much faster than by traditional sea routes. And although ships still carry most global cargo, these rail lines offer an alternative that supports companies needing quicker delivery times, especially for electronics, machinery, and manufactured parts, helping European and Asian businesses respond more quickly to market demands and reducing delays that can happen when shipping routes face congestion or weather disruptions.
China has also invested heavily in modernizing its own ports and shipping facilities, such as large container terminals that operate with advanced technology and automation, which increases the speed, safety, and efficiency of loading and unloading ships, allowing vessels to move quickly between Chinese cities and major global markets. And this high level of efficiency makes China an essential link in worldwide supply chains, especially for industries that rely on rapid transportation, consistent quality, and reliable schedules to keep factories running and store shelves stocked with products consumers need every day.
Another key factor in China's economic influence is its enormous consumer market. Because as the Chinese middle class grows, millions of people purchase more goods, including technology, cars, medical equipment, and luxury items from other countries, which means China is not only a major exporter, but also a major importer, giving global companies strong reasons to invest in China, study its markets, and develop products that match the preferences of Chinese consumers, further strengthening China's role as a central player in global trade relationships and international business strategies.
China's influence also extends into global technology supply chains, because many of the components used in smartphones, computers, telecommunication systems, and advanced machines come from Chinese factories, and this creates a situation where companies around the world depend on China for important materials and devices, making cooperation essential for ensuring that markets remain stable, technology continues to advance, and businesses avoid disruptions that could slow down production or increase prices for consumers who rely on digital tools and electronic devices for work, communication, and daily life.
For English learners, understanding China's economic rise is important not only because it explains global trade patterns, but also because it provides useful vocabulary and simple examples that show how modern economies depend on one another, and by learning terms such as manufacturing hub, export power, infrastructure development, shipping network, and trade corridor, learners can improve their ability to speak about serious global issues with clarity and confidence, while also building the knowledge they need for future studies, international jobs, or personal interest in understanding how the world economy truly works.
Julia, when we start thinking about global trade and modern business, it's impossible not to talk about the United States, because even though many countries are growing quickly, the U.S. still remains one of the most powerful players in technology, innovation, and economic influence, and so much of what we use every day, whether it is software, medical equipment, aircraft, movies, or digital tools, has a strong connection to American companies that shape the world's markets.
You're right, Adam, and what always surprises English learners is how deeply the US economy is built on new ideas and inventions. Because unlike many countries that focus mainly on manufacturing or natural resources, the United States invests heavily in research, advanced education, and technology labs, which is why companies there are often the first to create new products, new digital platforms, and new scientific advancements that later spread across the world.
Exactly. And one great example is the American technology industry, because many of the largest tech companies, those that create smartphones, operating systems, online platforms, cloud networks, and artificial intelligence tools, are headquartered in the U.S., and this gives the country an incredible advantage in shaping how people communicate, how businesses operate, and how global supply chains function in the digital age.
And this influence is not only about software or electronic devices, it also extends to industries like aerospace, because the United States exports some of the most advanced aircraft used by airlines around the world. And it also plays a huge role in producing medical equipment, scientific instruments, and complex machinery, which are essential for hospitals, factories, universities, and construction projects in many nations that depend on reliable, high-quality products.
Something many people forget, Julia, is that the U.S. economy does not work alone. It operates through a massive global network, where American companies design products in one place, get materials from another place, build components in another region, and ship finished goods worldwide, which means that U.S. trade is closely tied to Asia, Europe, Latin America, and even remote markets that supply minerals, technology components, or agricultural goods.
That's very true, Adam. And this also means that changes in US trade policy can affect the entire world. Because when the government in Washington updates tariffs, changes regulations, signs a new agreement, or focuses on a new region, companies everywhere adjust their plans, and shipping routes, factory locations, and investment decisions shift as well, showing how important it is to understand American trade strategy when studying international business.
I think one of the best examples of this influence is the United States' role in digital trade, because many countries rely on American cloud services, cybersecurity tools, and communication platforms, and when American lawmakers create new digital laws, other countries often adopt similar policies or develop new standards that work with U.S. systems, which helps maintain smooth international cooperation but also creates competition as countries try to build their own technology ecosystems.
Yes. And another interesting area is agriculture, because many learners think of the US only as a technology leader. But it is also one of the world's biggest exporters of crops, such as corn, wheat, soybeans, and fruits. And because the US uses advanced farming machines, satellite technology, and modern irrigation systems, it can produce huge amounts of food that support other nations during shortages or help stabilize global prices during difficult times.
Julia, something else our listeners may find interesting is how American culture influences trade, because U.S. movies, music, sports, and fashion create global demand for American products, encouraging companies to expand internationally and inspiring young people in many countries to follow American trends, learn English, study technology, and join global industries that are heavily influenced by U.S. innovation and creativity.
Exactly. And this cultural influence also helps American companies succeed abroad, because when people already know a product or a brand from movies, social media, or entertainment, they feel more comfortable buying it, which strengthens the U.S. position in international markets and helps its companies build strong long-term relationships with customers around the world.
Another key point is the strength of American universities and research centers, because they attract some of the best thinkers, scientists, and engineers from around the world, and many groundbreaking inventions, from medical treatments to computer technologies, were created through partnerships between universities and private companies, which explains why the U.S. remains so competitive in high-tech industries and why its export products are often considered some of the most advanced in the world.
And we should also mention how the US financial system supports global trade, because American banks, payment networks, and investment firms help businesses move money safely across borders, manage global projects, and build large infrastructure developments, meaning that the financial strength of the United States helps stabilize trade and creates opportunities for countries seeking investment and partnerships in transportation, communication, and industrial growth.
To make it clearer for our English learners, the U.S. plays three main roles in global trade. First, it is a leader in innovation that creates products and ideas used worldwide. Second, it exports valuable goods that support industries in many countries. And third, it shapes trade policy in ways that influence how companies organize production and where new trade routes develop, making the United States a central player in the future of global economic cooperation.
And that is why understanding the United States is essential for anyone studying global trade. Because by learning simple words like innovation, exports, supply chains, digital trade, and trade policy, students can speak more confidently about international issues, and they can better understand how technology, science, and business connect countries in ways that affect our daily lives, making global trade a topic that everyone can benefit from learning.
Europe plays a very important role in global trade, and today we want to explain how the European Union keeps its position strong even when competition from China and the United States is growing. When people talk about Europe and trade, they usually think about high-quality products, strong rules for business, and a focus on stability. One big reason Europe is powerful in trade is that the EU connects many countries together, and this connection helps them act like one large market. For companies inside Europe, this makes trade easier because they can move goods without facing extra taxes or barriers, and this creates a strong environment for industries like cars, machinery, fashion, and medicines.
Yes, and what makes Europe very interesting is its long history of high-quality manufacturing. Many European companies focus on precision, careful design, and long-lasting products. When you hear names like German cars, Italian fashion, or French cosmetics, you usually think of quality. This reputation helps Europe stay competitive even when other countries offer cheaper products. People around the world are willing to pay more for something that lasts longer and has a clear standard of excellence. This focus on quality is one of Europe's strongest economic strategies because it allows the region to stay relevant in a world where low-cost production is rising quickly.
Another important part of Europe's strategy is green energy and sustainability. Europe is one of the world leaders in creating cleaner energy, like wind farms, solar power, and environmentally friendly technology. This focus is not only for protecting the planet, but also for building new industries and new jobs inside Europe. Many countries want to reduce pollution and use renewable energy, and Europe exports a lot of knowledge and equipment related to these goals. This gives Europe an advantage in the global market because many companies and governments want modern, clean solutions for transportation, electricity, and industry.
Europe is also very focused on supply chain security. In the past few years, the world has seen big disruptions, things like delays at ports, shortages of important materials, and rising transportation costs. These problems showed how risky it can be when countries depend too much on one region for important goods. Europe is now working to make its supply chains safer by producing more things inside the EU, reducing reliance on a single foreign supplier, and building stronger trade relationships with trusted partners. This strategy helps protect European companies from sudden global shocks and keeps trade more stable.
And when we talk about competition, it's important to remember that Europe faces strong challenges from both China and the United States. China offers lower prices and massive production capacity, while the United States leads in technology, innovation, and global brands. Europe cannot compete by lowering prices too much, and it cannot outmatch the US in tech innovation yet. So Europe builds its strength in other ways: quality products, stable regulations, education, infrastructure, and green technology. These elements create a balanced and dependable economic environment that many partners around the world trust.
Europe also adapts by cooperating with other regions. For example, the EU signs trade agreements with countries in Asia, Africa, and South America. These agreements make it easier for goods to move between Europe and those regions, and they help European companies remain competitive in new markets. By opening doors to more parts of the world, Europe increases its trade power without needing to grow its population or produce cheap products. Instead, Europe uses its political and economic influence to create stable long-term partnerships that benefit many countries.
Another interesting point is Europe's focus on protecting consumer rights and business fairness. Europe has strong rules to make sure products are safe, companies are honest, and workers are treated fairly. These rules are sometimes very strict, but they also make European products trusted worldwide. Many countries use Europe as an example when they create their own safety policies. This leadership gives Europe influence in global trade because when other countries follow similar rules, European companies can sell their products more easily.
And even though Europe faces some challenges, things like rising energy costs, competition from cheaper imports, and political disagreements, the region continues to innovate. Many European companies are creating new technologies in fields like electric vehicles, medical research, robotics, and digital systems. These companies may not always be the cheapest, but they often offer high reliability, strong performance, and excellent service. This creates long-term value for buyers, which helps Europe stay important in global trade.
So when we look at Europe and the global economy, we see a region that focuses on high quality, smart regulation, clean energy, and stable trade relationships. Europe knows it cannot compete in every area, so it chooses its strengths and builds around them. This strategy helps Europe stay relevant even when the world becomes more competitive and more unpredictable. Europe's future in global trade will depend on how well it continues to innovate, protect its industries, and cooperate with international partners. But for now, Europe remains a major economic power with strong influence across many sectors of global trade. When we talk about the future of global trade, one of the most exciting topics is the rise of new trade routes connecting Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. These new pathways are shaping how goods travel around the world and how countries build economic partnerships. Today, Julia and I want to explain some of the most important emerging routes, why governments are investing in them, and how they may change the global economy in the next decade. We will also teach some simple economic terms like logistics, corridor, port, and infrastructure, so our listeners can follow global trade stories more easily.
A good place to start is the Middle East-Europe corridor, which has become a very active trade area in recent years. Many countries in the Middle East, such as the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, are now investing heavily in ports, highways, and shipping networks. These investments make it easier for goods from Asia to move quickly toward Europe. For example, large ships arriving from China or India can unload in Middle Eastern ports, and then smaller ships or fast trains can carry those goods toward Europe. This system helps reduce time and cost, and it gives the region a bigger role in world trade.
One of the most discussed projects is the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, or IMEC. This corridor aims to connect India to the Middle East using sea routes, and then connect the Middle East to Europe using modern rail lines and advanced ports. Many experts say this route could become a powerful alternative to older pathways, especially those that go through long sea journeys. The idea is to make trade faster and more efficient by combining both sea and land transport. This is an example of multimodal transport, which means using more than one type of transportation, like ships plus trains.
IMEC is also interesting because it is not just about moving goods. It also includes digital cables, clean energy cooperation, and new infrastructure that supports economic growth across several regions. When countries build infrastructure together, they create long-term partnerships. This makes the world more connected and changes how companies think about global supply chains. For English learners, the word infrastructure means the physical systems that help a country run. Things like roads, ports, railways, power grids, and communication systems. When these systems become stronger, trade becomes smoother and more reliable.
Another important region in the future of trade is Africa. Many African countries are rapidly developing new ports, highways, and industrial zones. For example, East Africa now has major port upgrades in Kenya and Tanzania, while West Africa has large expansions in Nigeria and Ghana. These improvements make Africa a key player not only as an exporter of raw materials, but also as a growing market for manufacturing and consumer goods. As more companies set up factories in African countries, new trade routes between Africa, the Middle East, and Asia will continue to grow stronger. This shift will help balance global trade and create new jobs.
We should also mention that Africa has one of the world's newest large-scale agreements, the African Continental Free Trade Area, or AfCFTA. This agreement connects many African countries into one trade zone, similar to how Europe works as a single market. When countries reduce trade barriers, goods can move more easily between them. This helps industries grow and it makes the continent more attractive to global investors. As Africa becomes more connected internally, it will also grow stronger internationally. New routes linking Africa to Asia and Europe will become even more important for global supply chains.
Another route that is getting a lot of attention is located far to the north, through the Arctic. Because of climate changes and new technology, some shipping companies are beginning to test Arctic sea lanes that shorten the distance between Asia and Europe. These routes are not fully open for use yet, and they are still challenging because of ice and weather conditions. But if they become stable in the future, they could cut many days off international shipping times. A faster route means lower shipping costs and quicker delivery of goods, which can influence global trade patterns.
At the same time, countries in the Middle East continue to build new logistics hubs. The word logistics refers to the planning and movement of goods, how products are transported, where they are stored, and how they reach their final destination. Modern logistics centers help countries control the flow of trade and make transport more efficient. Places like Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Jeddah are becoming important global logistics hubs. They offer advanced airports, deep water ports, and smart warehouses that use technology to manage goods more effectively. All of these tools support the development of new trade corridors.
Trade routes are also shifting because companies want more stability. In the past few years, global supply chains have faced many problems, such as delays, shortages, and higher transportation costs. These challenges pushed countries to search for new partners, new regions, and new transport networks. When companies diversify their supply chains, they reduce risk. For example, if a company depends on only one port or only one country for materials, a delay can stop production. But if the company uses several routes and several regions, it becomes stronger and more flexible. This idea is called supply chain resilience.
Another interesting trend is the rise of digital trade routes. These don't move physical goods, but instead move data, services, and technology. Many new underwater internet cables connect regions like India, the Middle East, and Europe. These cables help companies run cloud systems, financial services, and communication networks. In the modern world, digital routes are as important as physical routes because they support global business. They help small and large companies work together across different continents and keep the global economy connected.
So when we look at all these developments, the Middle East-Europe corridor, IMEC, Africa's growth, and the possibility of Arctic shipping, we can see that the world of trade is becoming more complex and more connected. The global economy is no longer dominated by just a few old routes. Instead, many new pathways are emerging, and each one offers new opportunities for trade, cooperation, and development. Understanding these changes helps us see how the next decade of global trade may unfold and how different regions will play important roles in shaping the future of the world economy. Julia, one of the most exciting changes in global trade is how technology is reshaping the way goods and services move around the world. Because today, we are not only talking about physical products in containers and trucks, but also about digital trade, online markets, e-commerce, and new innovations like artificial intelligence and automation that allow businesses to operate faster, smarter, and more efficiently than ever before, which means that countries and companies that embrace these tools are likely to have a competitive advantage in the future global economy.
Exactly, Adam. Many people think of trade as just moving items from one country to another, but digital trade is becoming a huge part of the world economy, and it includes things like software, digital services, online platforms, and even financial transactions. For example, when someone in Europe buys software from a company in the United States, or when a business in Asia uses cloud computing from a company in India, digital trade happens instantly across borders. This is very different from traditional trade, where goods physically move in containers, and it requires strong internet connections, secure payments, and fast logistics systems to make it reliable.
One important technology transforming trade is artificial intelligence, or AI, because it helps companies analyze large amounts of information about customers, suppliers, shipping routes, and global markets. With AI, businesses can predict which products will be in demand, identify faster transport options, and even detect potential risks in supply chains. For English learners, the term automation is also very useful. It means using machines or computer programs to do tasks that humans usually do. Automation can help factories produce goods faster, reduce errors, and lower costs, which directly affects international trade and competitiveness.
Another major factor is e-commerce, which refers to buying and selling goods online. Platforms like Amazon, Alibaba, and other global websites make it possible for businesses to reach customers anywhere in the world. Small companies in one country can sell their products internationally without needing a large network of stores or distributors. E-commerce also requires digital payments, which means that buyers can pay using online banking, mobile apps, or digital currencies. These payments are fast, safe, and trackable, allowing international trade to grow even when companies are separated by thousands of kilometers.
Julia, digital services are another area transforming the world economy. Services like online education, software development, telemedicine, digital marketing, and cloud computing can now be exported just like physical goods. For example, a company in India can provide IT support or software design for a client in Europe or North America without shipping anything physically. This makes trade faster, more flexible, and more cost-efficient. It also creates opportunities for countries that may not have large manufacturing industries, but have skilled workers who can provide valuable services online.
AI and automation are also changing logistics, which is the planning and management of moving goods. Many ports now use AI-powered cranes and automated systems to unload and sort containers, which reduces waiting times and prevents errors. Trucks can be tracked using digital tools to ensure timely deliveries, and warehouses are increasingly automated to manage inventory more efficiently. These technological improvements make global supply chains more reliable and predictable, helping businesses plan and reducing the risk of delays or losses.
Another fascinating trend is the rise of technology-driven economies, which are countries or regions that focus on digital industries rather than traditional manufacturing. For example, Singapore, Estonia, and South Korea have become leaders in digital innovation, e-commerce, fintech, and cloud services. These countries attract investments, create jobs in the technology sector, and increase their trade influence without relying heavily on natural resources. For English learners, this shows how technology can create new opportunities and change how countries participate in the global economy.
Digital trade also allows for faster global communication. Video conferences, cloud collaboration, and instant messaging mean that companies in different countries can work together in real time. Decisions about production, logistics, and marketing can be made almost instantly, which was impossible in traditional trade systems, where communication could take days or weeks. This speed allows businesses to respond to global demand quickly, adjust strategies, and reach new markets faster than ever before.
We also need to highlight how digital payments are crucial for global trade. Platforms like PayPal, Stripe, and digital banking networks make international transactions easier and more secure. Companies no longer need to rely on physical checks, manual transfers, or complex banking systems. These digital payment systems allow businesses of all sizes to trade globally, and they support both large corporations and small entrepreneurs who want to reach international markets without heavy financial obstacles.
Another term our listeners should know is online marketplaces, which are websites or apps where multiple sellers can reach buyers worldwide. Online marketplaces make it easier for new businesses to start international trade because they provide logistics support, customer service systems, and secure payment processes. These platforms are transforming the way goods are sold globally, and they are helping countries with smaller economies become more active in international trade.
Julia, what's exciting is that technology also supports sustainability in trade. For example, AI can optimize shipping routes to reduce fuel consumption, and digital tracking helps reduce waste by monitoring inventory accurately. Automation in warehouses decreases energy use, and e-commerce allows more efficient packaging. These technological solutions not only increase profits, but also make global trade more environmentally responsible, which is becoming a priority for many countries and consumers worldwide.
Finally, technology is connecting global education and training with trade. Online courses, digital workshops, and virtual certifications allow workers to learn skills needed for e-commerce, AI, automation, logistics, and financial technology. This helps countries develop skilled labor for new industries, which strengthens their economies and increases participation in international trade. For English learners, understanding these terms, AI, automation, e-commerce, logistics, digital payments, and online marketplaces, provides knowledge to follow global trade news, participate in discussions, and even work in technology-driven industries in the future.
In summary, the future of global trade is not just about moving containers across oceans. It is about using technology to improve every step of the process, from manufacturing to logistics, from financial transactions to online services. AI, automation, digital services, e-commerce, and technology-driven economies are creating new opportunities for countries and companies around the world. Understanding these changes is essential for learners who want to participate in the modern world economy, speak confidently about global trade, and see how technology is shaping the future of business and international cooperation. Julia, even though we've discussed new trade routes, technological innovations, and the growing influence of regions like China, the US, and Europe, it's important to remember that global trade is not without challenges. The world economy faces several risks that can disrupt the movement of goods, increase costs, and affect companies and consumers everywhere. One of the most important challenges is supply chain disruption, which happens when delays, shortages, or unexpected problems slow down the delivery of goods from one country to another.
Yes, Adam, and supply chain disruptions can occur for many reasons. For example, natural disasters like storms, floods, or earthquakes can damage ports, roads, or factories. Political tensions or trade disagreements between countries can also cause delays, because tariffs, regulations, or restrictions may make it more difficult for goods to move across borders. Even technological failures, such as computer system outages or transportation tracking errors, can slow shipments. All of these factors show why businesses must plan carefully and create resilient supply chains to handle unexpected problems.
Another challenge we see in global trade is the competition for resources. Countries around the world compete for raw materials such as oil, natural gas, metals, rare earth minerals, and agricultural products. When multiple countries want the same resources at the same time, prices can rise, and companies may struggle to get the materials they need to produce goods. This is especially true for high-tech industries, because many devices like smartphones, computers, and electric cars require rare metals that are limited in supply. Understanding these economic dynamics helps explain why global trade can be complex and sometimes unpredictable.
Adam, trade tensions between countries are another factor that affects global commerce. For example, disagreements over tariffs, regulations, or political issues can lead to higher costs for imports and exports. Companies may have to find new suppliers or adjust production, which can take time and increase expenses. Trade tensions do not always lead to conflict. Often they are negotiations that aim to balance benefits between countries. But the effect on supply chains, transportation, and prices is real, and this is why businesses need strategies to reduce risks and adapt quickly.
Shipping disruptions are also very common in modern trade. Ports can become crowded, container availability can be limited, or transportation routes can be delayed by weather, accidents, or infrastructure problems. For example, if a large ship blocks a canal or port, thousands of containers may be delayed for days or weeks. This creates a ripple effect, affecting factories, retailers, and consumers worldwide. To solve this, companies often use multiple shipping routes, advanced tracking systems, and flexible suppliers. This approach ensures goods can still move even when one route faces problems.
Another concept that is important to understand is economic competition. Countries compete to attract foreign investment, build advanced industries, and gain a share of global trade. This competition is not always negative. It encourages innovation, improves efficiency, and pushes businesses to develop new products and services. However, it can also create tensions, especially when countries try to protect their own industries with regulations or subsidies. For global trade to work smoothly, it is essential that countries cooperate while still competing, balancing self-interest with international partnerships.
Julia, we also see challenges related to transportation costs. Fuel prices, labor costs, port fees, and insurance can fluctuate, which affects the price of goods. When transportation costs rise suddenly, businesses may increase prices for consumers, reduce production, or delay shipments. This shows why stability in trade routes, ports, and supply networks is so important. By planning efficiently and investing in infrastructure, countries can reduce the risk of high costs and ensure that trade remains reliable for everyone.
Climate change is another factor affecting global trade. Extreme weather events like hurricanes, floods, heat waves, or ice storms can disrupt production and shipping. Rising sea levels can threaten ports and coastal infrastructure, while changing climates can affect agriculture and the availability of raw materials. Companies and governments are now investing in sustainable supply chains, which means creating trade networks that are more environmentally friendly and more resilient to natural challenges. This approach helps reduce risks for the long term.
Security is also a global challenge. Shipping routes, ports, and digital trade systems can face threats such as piracy, cyber attacks, or theft. For example, online trade systems, digital payment networks, and logistics software are vulnerable to hackers. If a cyber attack occurs, it can slow down shipments, block payments, or even cause financial losses. To prevent this, businesses invest in cybersecurity and advanced tracking systems, which protect both physical goods and digital trade flows. Security is a critical component of stable global trade.
Adam, one solution to these challenges is diversification. Companies are now using multiple suppliers, alternative shipping routes, and digital monitoring systems to reduce risk. Diversification allows businesses to continue trading even if one supplier, route, or region faces problems. For example, a company might source raw materials from Asia and Africa, use shipping through multiple ports, and store inventory in different locations. This approach improves supply chain resilience and allows trade to continue with fewer disruptions.
Global coordination and international cooperation are also very important. Organizations like the World Trade Organization, regional trade agreements, and multinational partnerships help countries agree on rules, reduce trade barriers, and improve logistics. When countries cooperate, they can prevent delays, lower costs, and support economic growth. This cooperation is especially important in times of global challenges like pandemics, political tensions, or natural disasters, because a coordinated approach ensures that trade continues and goods reach people who need them.
In summary, global trade faces multiple challenges, from supply chain risks and shipping disruptions to competition for resources and trade tensions. Climate change, economic competition, rising transportation costs, and security risks also affect how goods move around the world. But by using diversification, investing in resilient supply chains, cooperating internationally, and adopting new technologies, countries and companies can continue to trade effectively. Understanding these challenges helps English learners and future professionals follow world news, make informed decisions, and think critically about the global economy.
Exactly, Julia. The key idea is that trade is a dynamic system. It is always changing, and risks are part of the process. By learning about supply chain management, trade strategies, and global cooperation, our listeners can better understand how countries, businesses, and consumers are connected, and how careful planning can help overcome challenges while supporting economic growth worldwide. Julia, when we think about the future of global trade, one topic that is becoming increasingly important is the environment. Countries are now considering how trade affects climate change, pollution, and natural resources. This is why environmental issues and sustainable trade are becoming a major focus for governments, businesses, and consumers around the world. Understanding these ideas helps English learners follow global news and understand why trade decisions are made not only for profit, but also for the health of our planet.
That's right, Adam. One of the main ways that environmental concerns affect trade is through climate policies. Governments create rules to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, encourage renewable energy, and promote energy efficiency. These policies can influence what products are made, how they are transported, and which countries become major players in global trade. For example, countries that invest in solar panels, wind turbines, and electric vehicles can export these products and create new trade opportunities while also reducing environmental damage.
Julia, many companies are now thinking about sustainable trade, which means producing, transporting, and selling goods in ways that are better for the environment. This can include using clean energy for factories, choosing shipping methods that produce less pollution, or designing products that last longer and create less waste. Sustainable trade is important because consumers, especially in Europe and North America, increasingly prefer products that are environmentally friendly. Companies that adopt sustainable practices may gain a competitive advantage in international markets.
One example is transportation. Shipping goods by large container ships is usually cheaper and faster than air transport, but it also creates a lot of carbon emissions. To reduce pollution, some companies are now using ships powered by cleaner fuels, improving fuel efficiency, or optimizing routes to reduce travel distance. Trains can also be a more environmentally friendly option for moving goods over land. Even small decisions, like packaging materials, can make a difference in reducing environmental impact.
Another important topic is renewable energy. Countries are shifting from fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and gas to solar, wind, and hydropower. This shift not only reduces pollution, but also creates opportunities for trade in renewable energy technologies. For instance, Europe and China are exporting solar panels and wind turbines to other regions, while countries investing in renewable energy infrastructure can reduce their dependence on imported fossil fuels. This shows how environmental policy and trade are closely connected.
Adam, it's also important to understand the idea of a carbon footprint. This term means the amount of greenhouse gases produced by making, transporting, or using a product. Companies and countries are increasingly measuring the carbon footprint of their goods and taking steps to reduce it. Products with lower carbon footprints are becoming more attractive to buyers, especially as governments set rules for cleaner production and transportation. This encourages companies to invest in cleaner factories, electric vehicles, and energy-efficient technology.
Climate policies also affect international trade through regulations and incentives. For example, countries may charge higher taxes on goods that produce more pollution or offer discounts for products made with clean energy. Trade agreements now sometimes include environmental standards, requiring that imported products meet certain sustainability rules. This makes global trade more responsible and encourages companies worldwide to adopt greener practices.
We should also talk about recycling and waste management. Sustainable trade is not only about production and transport. It is also about reducing waste. Companies are designing products that can be recycled or reused, which reduces the need for raw materials and minimizes environmental harm. Shipping companies are also finding ways to use packaging that is biodegradable or reusable, which helps decrease pollution in oceans and cities. These small but important steps contribute to long-term environmental protection.
Another interesting trend is the development of green supply chains. This means that every step in producing and transporting goods considers environmental impact. For example, companies may select suppliers who use renewable energy, choose logistics partners that offer cleaner transportation, or design routes that reduce emissions. Green supply chains are not only good for the environment, but also help companies meet international standards and attract customers who value sustainability.
Adam, consumers also play a role in promoting sustainable trade. Many people now prefer buying products that are made with environmentally friendly methods. This includes food grown without harmful chemicals, clothing made from sustainable fabrics, and electronics produced with energy-efficient processes. When buyers demand sustainable products, companies have more reason to adopt eco-friendly practices. Trade is therefore influenced not only by governments, but also by consumer choices around the world.
Finally, technology helps sustainable trade grow. Digital tools can track the carbon footprint of products, monitor energy use in factories, and optimize shipping routes to reduce fuel consumption. Online marketplaces can highlight sustainable products, giving them more visibility and increasing demand. Artificial intelligence can predict better logistics, energy use, and manufacturing processes, all of which reduce environmental impact while maintaining efficient trade.
In summary, environmental issues and sustainable trade are deeply connected to global commerce. Climate policies, renewable energy, green supply chains, eco-friendly transportation, recycling, and consumer demand are all shaping the future of trade. By understanding these concepts in simple English, learners can discuss global trade, follow world news, and understand why countries and companies are working to balance economic growth with environmental protection.
Exactly, Julia. The main idea is that trade is no longer just about money or speed. Today, it also considers the health of the planet. Sustainable practices benefit both the environment and businesses. Countries and companies that adopt green policies, invest in renewable energy, and reduce their carbon footprint will likely lead the future of global trade, creating opportunities for long-term economic growth and a cleaner world for everyone. Julia, when we think about all the changes in global trade, technology, and sustainability, it's natural to ask, what does this mean for young people who are preparing to enter the workforce or continue their education? The future world economy will be very different from what it was even 10 years ago. Jobs will require new skills, companies will operate digitally and globally, and international cooperation will be more important than ever. Understanding these trends is essential for students and future workers because it helps them prepare, succeed, and take advantage of new opportunities.
Exactly, Adam. One of the first and most important skills is learning English. English is still the main language of global business, trade, and digital communication. Whether you want to work in technology, logistics, finance, or international trade, English will help you communicate with people from different countries. For example, if you work for a company that exports products or services internationally, English allows you to write emails, negotiate contracts, and understand reports. Learning English also opens doors to online courses, international news, and professional networks, which are all essential for preparing for the global economy.
Julia, another key skill is digital literacy. This means knowing how to use computers, smartphones, software, online platforms, and digital tools efficiently. For example, knowledge of spreadsheets, cloud systems, e-commerce platforms, and social media marketing can make you a valuable worker. Many jobs in the future economy will require digital skills because businesses are increasingly online and global. Students should also learn about emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, automation, and data analysis, because these tools will be widely used in workplaces around the world.
Adam, we also want to talk about cultural knowledge. Understanding different cultures, business practices, and social norms is becoming more important as trade and work connect countries and continents. For example, if a young professional in India wants to work with a company in Germany or Brazil, knowing how people communicate, negotiate, and make decisions in that culture can make a big difference. Cultural awareness helps avoid misunderstandings, builds trust, and strengthens international cooperation, which is very important for global trade and professional growth.
Another important point is learning about global markets and economies. Students should try to understand how countries trade, what products are in demand, and how supply chains work. Even simple knowledge about imports, exports, shipping routes, and international agreements can be very useful. For example, if you know that a country is investing in renewable energy, you can predict which industries and jobs may grow in that region. This knowledge allows future workers to choose careers strategically and helps students make better educational choices that align with market needs.
Adam, adaptability is also crucial. The world of work is changing quickly, and new technologies, trade routes, and economic policies can create both challenges and opportunities. Students and young workers must be ready to learn new skills, change roles, and adapt to new industries. Lifelong learning is not just a phrase, it's a requirement. People who can learn continuously, adopt new technologies, and stay informed about global trends will be the most successful in the future economy.
Julia, communication skills are equally important. Beyond learning English, young people need to practice writing clearly, speaking confidently, and presenting ideas effectively. Digital communication is becoming a major part of international trade and business. Skills like email etiquette, video conferencing, online collaboration, and professional social media usage are essential. When workers can communicate well across borders, they contribute more to global projects and gain recognition from international employers.
Another skill students should develop is problem-solving and critical thinking. As supply chains, trade routes, and digital systems become more complex, workers will need to solve challenges quickly and creatively. For example, a delay in shipping or a disruption in production will require quick decisions to avoid losses. Students can prepare by practicing analytical thinking, learning to make data-based decisions, and working on teamwork projects that simulate real-world challenges. These skills are highly valued by employers everywhere.
Julia, networking is another important aspect of preparing for the global economy. Building professional connections with people from different countries, industries, and backgrounds opens doors to opportunities. Networking can be done online through platforms like LinkedIn, through international internships, or by joining global student organizations. A strong professional network helps students and future workers exchange ideas, find mentors, and discover new career paths.
Finally, young people should think about ethics and sustainability. The future of global trade is not just about profits, it's also about responsibility. Students who understand environmental issues, fair trade practices, and ethical business standards will be better prepared to work in multinational companies and global organizations. They can contribute to sustainable projects, support ethical business practices, and create solutions that benefit both the economy and the environment.
In summary, Julia, preparing for the future economy requires a combination of language skills, digital literacy, cultural knowledge, understanding global markets, adaptability, communication, problem-solving, networking, and awareness of ethics and sustainability. Students and young workers who develop these skills will be ready to take advantage of opportunities created by new trade routes, technology, and economic changes.
Exactly, Adam. The key message is that the world is becoming more connected, competitive, and technology-driven. Young people who learn English, digital skills, cultural understanding, and global market knowledge will be better prepared to succeed. By staying curious, adaptable, and responsible, students and future workers can shape their careers, contribute to global trade, and create a positive impact in a changing economy.
So, listeners, remember that your preparation today, learning languages, improving skills, and understanding the world, will define your opportunities tomorrow. The future economy is full of potential, and with the right mindset and abilities, every young person can succeed and make a meaningful contribution to global trade and society. Julia, before we finish today's podcast, let's review some important English words and ideas that we discussed about global trade, technology, and sustainability. This is a great way for our listeners to improve their English while understanding world economy topics. For example, we talked about trade routes, which are paths that ships, trains, or trucks take to move goods from one country to another. Knowing this word helps you follow news about global shipping and logistics. We also mentioned supply chain, which is all the steps it takes to make and deliver a product. From the raw materials to factories to shipping to stores, that entire system is the supply chain. Then, there is infrastructure, which means the roads, ports, railways, and systems that help a country work and trade with other countries. Another term was digital trade, which includes online buying, software services, cloud systems, and e-commerce platforms that connect countries in a virtual way.
Adam, don't forget automation, which is when machines or computer programs do work that humans usually do, and artificial intelligence, or AI, which helps businesses make better decisions, predict demand, or manage logistics. We also talked about sustainability, meaning doing things in a way that protects the environment for the future, and carbon footprint, which measures how much greenhouse gas a product or activity produces. These are important words for learners because they appear often in news and educational materials about the world economy.
Exactly, Julia. We also introduced terms like renewable energy, which comes from natural sources like wind, solar, or water that do not run out, and e-commerce, which means buying and selling online. Logistics is another word we used. It refers to planning and managing the movement of goods. Resilience is when a system, like a supply chain, can handle problems and continue working. Finally, words like global markets, cultural knowledge, and digital literacy help learners understand what skills they need for the future world economy.
Now, let's ask some short reflective questions to help listeners practice speaking and thinking in English. You can pause the podcast and answer these questions aloud. First, which new trade routes did Adam and I talk about today, and why are they important? Second, can you give an example of digital trade in your country or city? Third, what skills do young workers need to succeed in the future global economy? Fourth, why is sustainability important for international trade? These questions encourage learners to think, speak, and connect vocabulary with real-world examples.
Julia, another way to practice is to summarize what we learned today in your own words. For example, you could explain how China, the US, and Europe are important in trade, or how technology and digital tools are changing how goods and services move around the world. You can also describe one new trade route or one green energy project, using the English words we reviewed. Practicing this way helps learners remember vocabulary and improve their speaking confidence.
Exactly, Adam. It's also good to try writing a few sentences about what you learned. For example, you can write, "The Arctic route is a new shipping path that may reduce travel time between Asia and Europe." Or, "Digital trade allows companies to sell products online to other countries." Writing, speaking, and thinking in English about real-world topics like trade, technology, and sustainability helps learners remember words, understand concepts, and gain confidence.
Finally, Julia, let's give our listeners some motivation. Learning English and understanding global trade may seem difficult at first, but it is very valuable. Every new word you learn, every sentence you speak, and every idea you understand brings you closer to being prepared for the future. The world is connected, and your English skills will help you communicate with people, understand global news, and even find new opportunities in your career or studies.
Yes, Adam. Remember, learning English is a journey. Small steps every day, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, will make a big difference over time. Don't worry about mistakes. Use the words we learned today, answer the reflective questions, and try to explain ideas in English. With patience and consistency, you will improve and feel confident discussing global trade, technology, and sustainability in English.
So, dear listeners, keep practicing, stay curious, and keep exploring the world of trade, technology, and global news in English. Each time you learn something new, you are preparing yourself for the future. Your effort today will open doors tomorrow, and with your English skills, you can connect with the world in ways you never imagined.
Exactly. Keep learning, keep speaking, and remember, every word you learn is a step closer to understanding the world and creating your own opportunities. The future is bright for those who are willing to learn and adapt.